Very good day to all the Southland defenders, Suidland verdediging members. Um, it's another warm day today in Pretoria. We've had good rains. Today's been the first break of rain in a long time, and we still have power problems. On a weekly basis, we're probably getting about 2 days of power and 5 days of no power. So it's generators all the way, and it's running at about 450 rand a day. Keep the generators going. So that's the situation at the moment in Pretoria over this festive season. And yes, I'm sure you're all enjoying your time with friends and family over the festive season. Some of you at the sea, but I'm sure a lot of you also here in the town. I did mention that I'd like to discuss a couple of the comments that were made on the previous YouTube videos that I've sent out. So the first question I want to discuss was a comment by a gentleman called Johan regarding Boersian. Now, I don't know Boersian, but he speaks well. And what I'd like to say is that um, the comment was, is Boersian preaching in line with other organizations or Suidland or whatever? I think the bottom line there is that it comes back to faith. Uh, the faith is something that's a personal relationship between you and God. Nobody can get you close to God but yourself. So it's a personal thing. I think the world is full of preachers, pastors, and ministers that are all doing a good job. Um, and at the end of the day, if we are one in the Holy Spirit, there shouldn't be any form of confusion with association. I think that should answer that question that was proposed. Another question that arose in the YouTubes was Colonel Latoy or Suidland Verdediging being God's savior, or are we working against the nation? No. I think what's important to note there that we are actually shepherds, and we feel a calling to help our people when anarchy breaks out. Now, time and again, we've mentioned anarchy. We are already in anarchy. It's just a question of when uh, all all breaks loose and there's no more law and order, which we're all aware of. There isn't at the moment. But yeah, we're shepherds and we're believers, and we feel uh, that we have to warn our people that you know what's going on in the country, if not internationally, so that you're prepared for the unexpected. Things haven't looked good over the many years. Things have got worse. They've gone from bad to worse. So, as a shepherd type personality, um, one has got no other obligation but to keep you informed, keep you positive, and help you help one another. We almost help one another when these times arise, which is not too far away if you read what's going on in the international portfolio and also locally. So, yeah, that is basically to sum up that question is, are we here to help? The other question was why I put my mask on at the end of the one video regarding association. That was just a closing commentary to say be safe, stay well, and don't forget to wear your masks. It was a Suidland verdediging mask with the horns, and that's what I'm wearing at the moment. So that is just basically that. There was no other intention meant there. Right. So uh, today I'm going to talk to you about you must switch on. We need to start flagging and tagging everything we read globally and nationally. specifically in our circumstances in South Africa. And there's a reason for that, why you need to flag and tag things, is it gets the mind fit. It gets the mind to think of what's going on, because a lot of us, and a majority of us, refuse to see what's going on around you. Everything looks good on the surface, but underneath it's not so good. So when you start flagging and tagging and reading news and correlating and lining up and comparing, a picture starts emerging on a political front, on a business front, that you can relate to, and it starts making sense. So today I want to start by us having a look at the international picture in a very broad perspective. Let's look at the Middle East. In the Middle East, there's turmoil. Civil wars have been raging in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Libya, and similar Middle East countries. And hundreds of thousands of people have been killed alone in the last year. Not 100, hundreds of thousands of people. Children, women, civilians, and even children are forced to fight as soldiers. Those figures have doubled up. The question we want to ask ourselves is, who's behind all these killings in the Middle East and these countries' demise? What is behind people, tribes, religions fighting one another, destroying a country, and the end result is absolute nothingness? So if we look at these countries, some are oil rich, some are gas rich. Now we know that the American economy needs the oil, and we know that the Russian economy needs the gas. So in broad, they're both involved. America and Russia are both involved in these countries for oil reserves or gas reserves, leaving nations messed up, leaving families homeless, all for these resources. So there's many videos in circulation to this extent, and one says to oneself, where are these politicians and where are these business leaders? Why have they not been brought to book? I mean, there's been millions of people displaced. You have North Africa flooding Europe and UK on boats and other means, and hundreds of lives are lost. But nobody comes to book. Nobody is held accountable. So now these members that are destitute, they're in Europe, flocking over the English Channel over to the UK. They all need mosques. They need schools. They need social support. So one is asking oneself is, what sort of future is in Europe and in UK 10 to 15 years with this mess that has arrived in their shores? We see many vacant church buildings, beautiful church buildings, vacant, standing empty throughout Europe. What happened? Why are these buildings desolate? They look like graveyards. I think it's simply looking at all of this. There's no more belief system anymore. So when there's no more belief system, there's no more structure. And then a country and its people are attacked, and social order and disorder becomes order of the day. If we look at the Middle East, there's been close to 400,000, 387,000 to be exact, civilians have been killed in fighting since 2001. Millions of people living in the war zones have been displaced. I think post 9/11, the wars have forcibly displaced over 38 million people. in the Middle East. Libya, Syria, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, all those all those places have been displaced. So when you start flagging and tagging, and you look at all these people, homeless people with no work, and you say to yourself, what future has Europe got with all these displaced people? Um, how are they going to incorporate them into society, school them, educate them? So one needs to think about those things. So if you look at the loss of life, even from World War II, you're looking at 56.4 million people have lost their lives. And again, with the recent Middle East conflict, you're looking at 38 million. So the loss of life just continues. The displacement of millions of people continues. And who's to blame for all of this? Where's the names? Nobody seems to be held accountable. And everybody just keeps handing out money and gives out more money and funds more and gives more, but no names are brought forward. With all the technology and with all the intelligence that all the countries have got, nobody's brought to book. Uh, Countries are destroyed. Natural resources are mined. So, what's the root cause for all this demise? I would say it's political greed for land and resources, using religion in Europe and in North Africa as an avenue. And again, I say, where are these politicians? Where are these business leaders? How come they're not brought to book? Why is the world quiet on this? So, with that, then, as background, let's come to the southern tip of Africa. Let's look at SADC in Zimbabwe. If we look at the presidents of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe and Emerson Mnangagwa, they're in power today, and their people are impoverished. There's no jobs, crime, no social services or standards. And then you look at these presidents and you say to yourself, how do they get into power and how do they stay in power? When the power is with the masses, the power is with the people. So in the restaurants in Pretoria, when I speak to the expats, Zimbabweans, and I say to them, how was Mugabe, Robert Mugabe? So now he was a good leader. And how is Emerson Mnangagwa? No, he's a good leader. So then I say, then why is there no work there and why is there poverty? And then you get that 50-kilometer look. No, they don't know. They don't know why it's like that. So I'm saying, but the power is with you to change. And this is the problem we're sitting with, is that our political leaders are not looking after their people, but their people keep voting for them. So something is wrong. Something's not marrying up here. Let's zoom into our own political parties. Let's have a look at the ANC. Of late, in the last year, 18 months, 12 to 18 months, we see that the RET forces, the Radical Economical Transformation Forces, which is the Zuma ACE faction with Karel Niehaus, they are now separated themselves from the ANC. But in Luthuli House, they're busy mobilizing this political party. So today we sit with a split in the ANC. On the left, we have the ANC, if I can say that. On the right, we have the RET forces. And also with that, the defense forces split in half. And the police services are split in half. So we have two parties in one not working together. The one has earned their money through BE structures. And the other one has earned their money through corruption avenues. So both sides are wealthy, both sides are comfortable, and both sides can't act on one another because then they all have to be jailed. Then we go and look at the EFF, and we see they're waiting for an opportunity to see when they can jump on the wagon and help the RET forces so they can gain more ground. And on the back of that, you've got the BLF. So it's a total mess. Not one of those parties want to look after their people. What they're saying is not what they're doing. The people today, still after 27 years, are broke. There's no work, no economy, and the polarization has increased. So not one of these parties, the ANC, the EFF, BLF, have any true concern for their fellow men, and even less so for the minority groups. Now, what's interesting is during these parties' rule and their political statements that they've made, which is interesting, you can go and Google this, 500,000 people have been murdered in South Africa. 500,000 people have been murdered in South Africa since 1994. And what's interesting is between the periods of July 2021, which is this year, to the end of September of 2021, 6,163 people have been killed in crime-related matters. And this is 1,056 more people killed compared to the corresponding period in the previous year. Now, let's move over to the other side. Let's look at the DA. Now, is the DA here to save us? I think John Steenhuisen is doing a good job, not because he's white, but I think when he speaks with integrity and he's trying. But let's look before him. Now, before him was Helen Zille, and she tried to help the party and the people in the country by promoting Muzi Maimane and Herman Mashaba. But what took place in the last 12, 18 months is how it turned around against them. And now this is my opinion. Now, all of you have got your own opinions. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing was the DA was there for the Metropolitan, for the Rainbow. If there was a party, it would have been them. But I see how Herman Mashaba turned on his white colleagues. I see how Muzi Maimane turned on his white colleagues. And this is where the white-black issue again fell apart in the DA, sadly. So one asks yourself the question, why does this happen? Why can't people work together? Why is there always this racial separation? I read today Herman Mashaba will not submit to whiteness. At the same time, we push Black Lives Matter. So the one is not helping the other in any way. We have the EFF also saying that they've supported the DA candidates in Gauteng, that the mayoral committee is too white. Now, if you look at the histories and the track records, this thing can't work. This coalition government in Gauteng can't work because their track records have shown undermining and too much whiteness and too much this. And so, yes, I think what's on the paper, whatever agreements have been signed, is not going to work because, for example, the EFF are adamant that they want to be the government in waiting. So they're not going to give their full support. They're going to make the DA battle to govern. They're going to make it very tough, if not impossible, because in the day their leverage is in the 2024 elections is to maybe strike a deal with the ANC that Julius Malema can be the vice president, something in those lines. So yeah, governing the coalition forces in the next 4 or 5 years, I think, is going to be impossible. I'm not saying that it's not beneficial for everybody, but I can't see a win-win plan at the end of the day. unless there's some form of miracle. Uh, Coming to our situation between the different business sectors, I see in restaurants there's unhappiness. I see in banks there's unhappiness. I see in hotel groups there's unhappiness because I'm moving between all these places and I talk to everybody, and nobody sees a win-win at the moment. Something's not right, although the DA has got their seats in Gauteng. They just see trouble coming because the ANC is not cooperative, the RET forces are less cooperative, and the EFF are busy with something. So the signs are not good, and that's why you have to flag and tag things and put your own picture together. At the end of the day, let's look at the root causes of our situation here in South Africa. Is again, there's political greed for land and the resources, and they're using race and polarization as an avenue to acquire this objective. So, looking at all of this, what's the way forward? Well, we have to keep praying. We have to know that we have the authority. We have to align ourselves with the right people and the right association going forward. And we have to be patient. We have to be patient and we have to prepare. Prepare for the worst case. Flag and tag things. Um, Ask God to give you wisdom. But at the end of the day, if I look at all this uncertainty, um, the only thing I can say is switch on and realize that it looks like self-rule is eventually going to surface. It's the only way forward for peace, unity, and some form of security for yourself, for your families, and for your future children. Well, in closing, then I just want to wish you all what's left of a festive season. Be safe. Uh, enjoy your time with your friends and your family, and take care until we talk again. Cheers. Bye bye.